Let's bring in Cornelia Meyer, who's an economist and energy expert. She joins us from Bern, Switzerland. Cornelia, thanks so much for being on this news hour. We've been hearing about how world leaders are trying to curb Moscow's ability to finance this war, and then in turn the ripple effects that that's having on the rest of the world. So firstly, if the G7 leaders are going to set a price cap on Russia's oil imports, how will that impact the rest of the world, and particularly the likes of Sri Lanka?
Well, how can they do that is the question. Right now, the G7 have decided, especially Europe, the EU have decided to not import any more seaborne crude. And a lot of the EU nations will not longer import even pipeline crude from Russia. So the people who are buying at this point already at a very, very discounted price are the Chinese and the Indians. So, you know, he would need to get the people who buy to agree to the cap. And why would they? Because at this point they get about a 30% discount anyhow. So there is a natural cap in there, as the natural buyers of Russian crude don't buy anymore, will not buy anymore as of the end of this year. So that's not very good. And when I look at Sri Lanka, my heart goes out. You know, these people need crude, or they need especially refined products, and they need them, and they will probably get them. But you see just how desperate they are to go out to Russia. You know, their natural allies are these G7 people. And so far, I don't see them really helping them when it comes to their really deep debt crisis.
And given what you're saying about China and India still buying oil from Russia, and then Russia's making tens of billions of dollars every month from the sale of these fossil fuels, and then also that the ruble is now stronger now than it was before, these are wide-ranging economic sanctions. Are they even working?
They are working. I mean, you know, if you no longer can import certain technological products and so on, they are working. If you're cut off from SWIFT, which is the international payment system, they are working. If it's harder, you know, even for the Chinese and the Indians, it's harder to carry Russian crude, because the Europeans have said we will no longer insure the vessels. So the Chinese, you see now, the Chinese and the Indians out in the market buying mainly older vessels that they can then insure themselves, so self-insure. So yes, it is working, but it's also hurting the Europeans, because let's face it, a lot of the European refineries are quite old, and they need those heavy oil, heavy sulfur Urals crudes, which they now need in turn to import from Kuwait and places like that. And whenever you redirect trade flows, it becomes very expensive for everybody involved, be it the European, be it the G7, be it the Russians.
And on that point, Cornelia, how can the West hit Russia's gas sales without it impacting the rest of the world, and particularly Europe? I spoke to one analyst who's predicting gas rationing by this European winter.
That may well be the case, and what we have here is you know, there are legal measures in place that households will always get access to gas. But the problem is that industry, if you look especially at Germany, industry, if you look at you know, steel furnaces or glass ovens, if they are only a few hours without oil, without gas, without energy, I mean, the glass will turn to solid glass in the oven, and that glass oven will never be able to function again. So these are real issues. And it's hard to go around them. But one thing is, if the Russians were really that desperate for European money, or for G7 money, they would probably not ration the gas to the extent they are. So this is extremely tricky, and a lot of people will get hurt in the process. And it will be Russians, it will be Europeans, and it will be the people who lose their jobs in Europe.
It's certainly very complex. We appreciate you taking the time to break it all down for us. Cornelia Meyer, an economist and energy expert, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.